What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to a brand new commentary video. Today we got some more Doom in the background. I've really been enjoying it, and you guys have been enjoying that too. And before we get started, I once again want to say thank you guys so much for the support on the latest videos. It means a lot to us, and we made it. We hit 600 subscribers. Thank you guys so much for that, for helping us reach that big goal, and we're only going to continue to grow, and I really do appreciate that. But without further ado, we're going to hop right into this thing. And today we got a bit of an interesting topic. I feel like I've touched on it a little bit before, but I feel like I haven't really sat down and talked about it enough on its own. So today I wanted to talk a little bit about anxiety. And I want to talk a little bit about how to deal with anxiety, some of the tricks that I use, because I deal with anxiety a lot. I've dealt with anxiety for nearly my whole life. I've always felt anxious, and especially over the last year and a half, I've really worked on really taking over my anxiety. And I want to talk about that a little bit because I think that it's a really interesting conversation to have and just an interesting topic overall. So first of all, what is anxiety, right? And anxiety is something that we all feel in some form or another. But for a lot of people, they feel it in a lot of different ways. And if you're somebody like me, unfortunately, I've dealt with panic attacks for a lot of my life. And it's not fun, and it's not great to go through life. And I feel like it's something, especially as you go into adulthood, it's something that you need to learn how to manage and to get through, right? Because one of the major things is that if you decide to ignore the anxiety, you decide to push down those feelings of anxiety, you decide to say, you know what, I'm not fucking feeling anxious, I'm not feeling anxiety. When you decide that you are going to ignore those feelings and that you are going to push them down, what actually happens is that you save those feelings to deal with them later. And you're not going to get to deal with them how you want to deal with it, and instead what's going to happen is that you're probably going to have a panic attack. And I've had many panic attacks in my life, and they're not fun. They're not fun to deal with, they're not fun to go through, and I want to try to mitigate that. Because sometimes you are able to work through those things and you are able to say that, no, I'm not going to have a panic attack today. I am going to be able to have control over my own anxiety. And one of the many ways that I've done this is that I remind myself, I stop, right? I try to stop what I'm doing, and I try to talk myself through whatever I'm dealing with. No matter what that anxiety may be caused from, is that you literally need to stop yourself, and you need to stop and have a conversation with your brain and be like, all right, what's going on? Why are we feeling this way? Because a lot of the times when you just stop and try to figure out what's going on, why am I feeling this way, you're going to be able to improve, your life. You're going to be able to deal with that anxiety. So number one is that we need to figure out what the root cause of the anxiety is. What are we anxious about? And then what I would recommend doing is if you're able to, sometimes you're not able to, is take some time to stop and try to work through that thing. Unfortunately, that's not something that we can always do, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit if you're in one of those situations where you're able to stop and have a conversation with yourself. What I'd really recommend doing is I'd recommend stopping and pulling out your phone. Unless the phone is what's causing anxiety, then get a piece of pen and paper. And what I recommend doing is writing out some of the reasons that you're feeling anxious, and then trying to find the root cause of what's causing that anxiety. And a lot of the times, there are things that you can try to solve right then and there. There are things that we are able to reassure ourselves about. And that's the thing that I think is really important when it comes to dealing with anxiety and dealing with stresses and dealing with pressures, whatever you may be going through, is stopping and having a conversation with yourself and trying to figure out, okay, why am I feeling this way, right? And can I sort of work through these things right now when I stop and I have these conversations with myself? And one of the many things that I have to have conversations with myself about is trying to figure out, am I doing the right thing? Am I doing something that is going to improve this channel? Am I doing something that is going to improve my life, right? Those are the basic sort of anxieties that I deal with. And literally what I do is that I stop myself and I ask myself, what have I done today, right? And remind myself, this is going to sound a little corny at times, but sometimes I have to remind myself of what I've been able to do in the last year, right? Is I will stop myself and I will have a conversation, be like, look, dude, this is what you've created and this is what you've made in the last year. This is what you've created in the last 10 months. This is what you've created in the last month, right? And I stop and I tell myself these things. Okay, so this is what we've done. right? So I write down those things. Okay, so we've gotten this many views, we've gotten this many subscribers, we've done this, we've done that, we've done whatever. I stop and I tell myself, these are what you've done over the last year. This is what you've done over the last month, right? And once I write those things down and I have a conversation with myself, and I kind of remind myself, dude, look, you're getting on a great path. You are going in a great journey. You are doing these things that are leading you down this great path. And, being able to stop and look at what I've done, right? That's what I recommend everybody do when you're dealing with anxiety. If you're stressing out over your grades, look at what improvements or what you've even accomplished in the last couple months is, right? What grades have you done well on? What papers have you done well on? What tests have you done well on? What new things have you learned? What new study patterns have you learned? What things have you learned, right? Because sometimes when it comes to anxiety, our brains go into this sort of idea where it's like, oh no, everything's fucking collapsing around me. Oh no, I can't solve anything. Oh no, I'm failing. Oh no, oh no, oh no. Let me go into fight or flight mode. No. You need to reassure your brain sometimes that, look, dude, it's not simply a black or white answer. Sometimes it's you need to look at a more abstract answer, right? Sometimes you need to quantify things in different ways to remind your brain, hey, look, I understand that you're stressed right now, and I understand that you're overloaded right now, and I understand that you're panicking right now. But look at what we've done. Look at new things that we've learned. Look at the new things that we've accomplished, right? Those are sort of the things that you need to stop and be able to tell your brain and look at and be like, all right, sure, are we in the best place ever right now? Maybe not, unfortunately. But you're able to sort of stop and have a conversation with yourself and remind yourself that, hey, I am improving. I am doing new things. I am trying new things. I'm working. I'm doing these great, amazing things. And unfortunately, sometimes our brain likes to be our enemy. I think that's important to remember too. And then also remember that you don't need to feel amazing in the moment either. Even stopping and having these conversations sometimes won't necessarily solve the issue at hand, but it can, help mitigate these issues. It can be a point where we can stop and have a conversation and figure out, okay, I'm stressing out. I need to stop and have a conversation. Sometimes it's important to just stop and reflect too, because once again, if you just push down these feelings, you tell yourself, I am not going to deal with these feelings. I'm not going to work on these feelings. I'm not going to stop and wonder, why am I being anxious? Instead, if you push it down, you're going to have to deal with it at some point, right? Because our brains don't just stop thinking about it. Unfortunately, at some point, they are going to break. At some point, they are going to need to let it all out at some point. And sometimes it's destructive. Sometimes it can cause you to take several steps backwards. Is that it's not going to be one of these things where you're going to be able to just push it off, right? You're not going to be able to stop and have a conversation at that point. At that point, your brain has decided, we are dealing with this now, motherfucker. We are panicking, and we are going to, tell ourselves that we are failing. We are going to tell ourselves that, hey, we are not doing great today. We are going to tell ourselves that we are failing. But, the sooner that we can find a way to deal with this and we can find a way to have a conversation with ourselves and figure out what's going on, the better we are going to be let out. And also, I think it's important to check in with yourself all the time. I try to check in with myself like once a week and sit down and sort of tell myself with no sort of like media or anything and like literally sit down, no earbuds, no anything, no AirPods, and just sit down and tell myself, okay, how are we doing this week, man? How are you doing up there? How are you doing down there, right? Having a conversation of being like, all right, this is where we're currently at. We can chill out. We are doing a good thing. We are striving. We are improving. We are working on the things that we told people we were going to work on. We are improving. We are doing these things that are going to lead us down a path of overall improvement in our life. And another thing is that I think it's important to write down the things that you're anxious about and look at them from time to time. Don't just shove them away or throw them away right away. I think that it's important to sit down and have just write them down, right? And put them somewhere so that you can remind yourself of those things that you were anxious about, right? And that you can sort of, look at when you are feeling anxious or that you feel that you are going down a wrong path or something like that. And you can sort of have a conversation with yourself from time to time and be like, all right, look, here's what I was stressed about last week. Here's what I'm stressed about this week. what am I going to do to sort of work on those things, right? Because if we decide to only work on it in the moment, and if we decide to ignore it for the rest of our life, is that we're not going to solve it. We're simply going to work on it when it pops up and anxiety gets in our way, but we're actually not stopping and we're not actually improving on those things, right? So it's important to write those things down and to have them somewhere so that you can look at them when you're feeling anxious, when you're feeling stressed, when you're feeling these things, right? Because if we decide that we're only going to work on them when they are inconveniencing us, well, tough shit, man. You're probably not going to improve, unfortunately. You're only going to deal with things when it's convenient for you or when it's inconvenient, really. And you're not going to learn from it. You're simply going to push it away and only think about it when it gets in your way. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you once again for checking out the video. And if you haven't already, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, and check out our links in the description. We have a link to join our Discord. There's also a link to buy W Energy. You can get 10% off of any order on the website with our code, or you can also use the link. Our code is Sigma934 for 10% off of anything on the website. Anyways, guys, I once again just want to reiterate that how much I appreciate all of you. I couldn't do this without you guys, and you have truly given us a lot over here at Point C, over, the last year, and we couldn't do it without you guys, and we truly do appreciate all of you, and we can't wait to make another great year. And anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope this video helped, and have a good rest of your day, and peace!